Hello and welcome to another standard video here in the preview event for Secrets of Strixhaven. Today we're checking out this white, black and red or mardu colored burn deck, and it's a fully creatureless burn deck as we have enough quality burn spells in standard that we can easily fill out a 60 card deck. Silverquill Charm being the latest addition. We have 3 different modes, but we'll usually choose the last one where each opponent loses 3 life and we gain 3 life, similar to a Lightning Helix going phase. We can also use it as creature removal, in this case exiling a creature with power 2 or less. Sometimes will be worse than just a Lightning Helix, but sometimes also has its advantages. If you're facing the Bloodletter, for instance, a 2-4, which we won't be able to take out with our 3 damage burn spells, we can still exile with a Silverquill Charm, and then the exile part of it is also relevant against some graveyard recursion, so it's nice to have both, since of course we're also playing the full set of Lightning Helix, more life gain stapled onto our burn spells, and then we also get to play the full set of Inevitable Defeat, which is another big payoff for going in the Mardu colors, as an uncounterable removal spell that exiles target non-land permanent, its controller loses 3 and we gain 3 life. So we've got even more life gain built in, which will be very useful once we cast the Decorum Dissertation, a 5 mana sorcery lesson that also has the Paradigm mechanic, and it's essentially an overpriced Sign in Blood, so target player draws 2 cards and loses 2 life, so we can both target our opponent with it to maybe finish them off if they're low enough, but usually we'll start by drawing 2 ourselves at the cost of 2 life, and because of the Paradigm mechanic, once the Dissertation resolves, from now on, at the beginning of our first main phase, for the remainder of the game, we'll get to cast another copy of the Dissertation for free. So this is huge if we can resolve it in a grindier matchup, especially against control, as from now on we'll have this steady stream of extra card advantage, we can easily make up for the life loss, and then sooner or later we'll get a critical mass of burn spells to help win the game, and of course once they're low enough we can also point a Dissertation at the opponent once the extra cards no longer matter. So this is really the build around that I had in mind. Now the Paradigm cards are not necessarily amazing in multiples in standard, because drawing multiple Dissertations is not going to give us multiple copies at the beginning of our first main phase going forward, so we really just want to draw 1 copy that we can then cast over and over again. And then to help out in those grindy matchups, we've got some additional card draw from the Case of the Crimson Pulse. When it enters, we discard to draw 2, and we can solve the case by being empty-handed, and then from now on, at the beginning of our upkeep, we discard our hand to draw 2. So this can also be helpful if we don't have the Paradigm to draw us extra cards. And the Cursed Recording can also copy the first 7 instants and sorceries we cast when we tap it, so that can also easily get us to 20 damage to burn the opponent out before we have to worry about losing to our own recording, although we can potentially tank 20 damage with enough life gain, so that's not impossible. And then we've got our other burn spells to round out the deck. Bolt Wave can only go face, but is 3 damage for 1 mana, which is pretty efficient. Burst Lightning can be 2 damage or 4 damage if we kick it. And then we've got Shock to round out our 1 mana burn spells as another 2 damage effect that can target anything. Lightning Strike is 3 to any target. And then Boros Charm can also only target opposing players, dealing 4 to them, but that's another pretty efficient burn spell if we just want to get the game over with. And then the mana base also gets the new slow lands which have been reintroduced in standard, so Shattered Sanctum and Sundown Pass mixed in with the fast lands, as well as shock lands and verge lands. Just the 1 basic could get punished if Land Destruction makes a resurgence, so depending on the meta might need a few more basics, but I'm also playing 1 Monastery, which can also help out in those grindier matchups at exiling cards off the top of the deck. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. I'm missing maybe a land or 2, but land 3 plays Case, which gets to 4 mana. So I think we can try it. Let's see what we're up against. Black-white. Yeah, the Decorum is not looking great right now, so maybe the card I have to discard. Gonna wait on the Lightning Strike or Burst Lightning. What do we think? Keep the Dissertation or keep Double Defeat? There's also a chance the case gets destroyed by a Get Lost. I'll try to keep the Dissertation in hopes of casting it, but I think the correct play is to discard it here. Could also discard like a Burst Lightning at this point. Sure. Alright, maybe I get to have my cake and eat it too. Inkright can maybe immediately make an Inkling. Seems like a fine target for the defeats. I just wouldn't want my opponent hexing it in response and denying the 3 damage. Alright, Hope Singer's next. So, now what? Just go for the Hope Singer or still go for the Inkright? Yeah, I'll go for the Inkright. Could also hit both, to be fair. With a Burst Lightning and then maybe a Lightning Strike, but I kind of want to spend all my mana. So we'll see what kind of response they have. A Restoration Magic of all things. Alright. So now I probably need to defeat the Hope Singer before they gain more life. Or I could once again just answer both. Sure. This is the type of deck where they really need creatures in play to leverage all their synergies. And since we have the Decorum, we can sort of play a long game where we play a control role. Alright, target myself. And draw 2. And we've got some life gain here to make up for it. Double Silverquill Charm. So this is really the spot we want to be in. Alright, opponent's gonna pump the token, draw card. And we could also consider burning our opponent for 2, but for now I'm still happy to draw the cards. So, do this now so I don't discard to hand size. And we can afford to take 2 more. Token attacks. Do I want to defeat it? Can I just want to maybe helix it? See what response they have. Erode their own creatures so we don't gain the life. Fair enough. Alright. Charm face. Keep our life total healthy. And I still draw 2 here. Opponent's at 14. I've got a lot of points of burn in hand. Still gonna draw 2 myself. Yeah, the Decorum has been putting in work. Pulls, discard the lanes. And Boros Charm is almost lethal. So then the Decorum can maybe finish it off here. That would be poetic. Hope Singer not a problem when it doesn't have haste. Yeah, that's fine. End of turn Boros Charm. And I'll let my opponent get in on the fun and draw 2 cards as well. Yes, I'm sure. Sweet, well, that was the perfect showcase of our game plan. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a decent looking hand. Play this tapped for now. And the Silver Tongue has lifelink, so probably need to answer that one. Especially if they gain more life somehow. Opponent goes to attackers. Yeah, I'll just use a lightning strike. And a Revenant, more lifelink creatures. Okay, I guess can just go for another lightning strike. Since Charm doesn't exile it, otherwise that would also get rid of the renew ability. So that has to go. At least the case gives us some more late game once we run out of spells. The Annex is a problem if they get a demon down. So, yeah. I'm wondering whether I should burst lightning here. I may need it in conjunction with another burn spell to take out the demon. Of course, defeat would also deal with Annex. So maybe I actually go case, discard burst lightning. And still no land. Alright, at least we have triple defeat, so we can handle whatever permanents they play next. Another Annex. That is 4 life. So now we can maybe focus on answering the demons. Even a Feardok Core I can exile with a defeat. Okay, opponent unlocks Ritual Chamber. I zap the demon. Sanctuary, I would have to Helix, because I cannot defeat a land. Opponent falls to 7, and now they're just dead to Helix plus Boros Charm. Alright, so that worked out. And I guess we'll go for the Silverquill Charm to show off a new card. Sweet, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Got some good amount of burn. Facing the new Scorn Mage. Well, faces the place. And the House Mouse grows the Scorn Mage. Okay, for now we can keep up Lightning Strike and Boros Charm. Possible I'll need to answer the Scorn Mage. But I can take 2. Dark Confidence could give us a hand. And a House Mouse. Alright, so I'm gonna let the Dark Confident live and hope it reveals some expensive cards. For now, Bolt Wave, keep up Strike and Charm. Our opponent did find a life linker, but it cost him 3 life, so I'm okay with that. End of turn Charm, and then we have 6 more points of burn. So that should do it. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Got some burn, and then the case to eventually refuel. Facing a red multicolored deck. Yeah, I think we start Bolt Waving since I want to empty my hand for the case as quickly as possible. Ashling. And we can maybe Charm. Or Helix. Doesn't matter too much, I think. Do they have any... maybe 2 powered creatures with 4 toughness that I can think of in the kind of elemental deck? Not really. But I guess, sure, we'll Helix. Price of Freedom, my lands. I only have the 1 basic, so this could be a problem. And there goes our black mana as well. Well, this Decorum is not getting cast anytime soon, so that can go. And yeah, put on some full-on land destruction here with the Artisan. Okay, well, that could be an issue. For now, shock the Artisan before they get to destroy my non-basic. And then maybe I should play Sacred Foundry untapped, so I can cast 2 more spells. Opponent passes, we'll just Boros Charm. And then I can wait on the Burst Lightning, maybe play it kicked. And I think I kind of want to hide the Verge for now. Although it doesn't let me play a kick Burst Lightning now. Our opponent's got the Helix, so they can gain some life back. So a lot riding on the case to eventually take over. I can maybe hide my black mana for another turn. Alright, let's solve the case. Opponent's at 4. So next turn I would get to draw. But yeah, opponent might have some more land destruction coming our way. Doesn't matter, because we can burn them out. Alright, feels like we dodged a bullet here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a lot of lands, but at least one of those is a monastery, which can draw more cards later. So I'll try it. And then can already Boros Charm end of turn. Opponent's ramping without creatures. And then may as well play a fast land. And Lessons from Life for a bit of ramp. So our opponent's going big. For now, another Courtyard. Plan is end of turn Helix, maybe wait to kick the Burst Lightning. Ooh, Sammy's Curiosity gaining 2 life is actually pretty relevant. Possible they've got counter spells in there too. Could also think about activating the Monastery. And a Paradox will draw 3, put a land in play. Seems like an okay window for a kick burst. But yeah, our opponent could maybe end the game with 1 powerful spell. And yeah, another Curiosity to gain 2. Defeats can hit a lander only if they're tapped out, so if they sack a lander end of turn, I can hit it. Because otherwise they would just sack the other one in response. Alright, perfect, so now we can defeat. Possible they have some other permanents that are scarier, but I'll take my opportunity while I can. Possible they're playing the new Loot, which can double their mana. Now they'll think twice about playing it. Or not. So they still have 14 mana, so if they have Mathemagics, I'm dead. Yeah, X equals 6, and that's game. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a slow but powerful hand if we can hit some more land drops here. I'll give it a shot. We've got good mana. Just need a second black source eventually. And a Forsaken Miner, so aggro. Second defeat could be awkward if we don't hit some more land drops. think I take 2. Not sure how easily they can get the miner back from the graveyard. Can just borrow his charm for now. Would prefer to exile it with a defeat. Now we can shock it. Demolition Field is actually pretty good against us since we just have the 1 mountain. This makes a pest. Well, it's kind of the pest that's more problematic. But I guess we'll deal with a 3-drop still. I don't want him looking at Demolition Field as an option, because then I'm never going to cast the Decorum. Alright, they went for the white source, luckily. So now I can defeat the miner. Oof, second Demolition Field. They could potentially hex their own creature, they didn't. Yeah, really gotta hope they don't field me again. Just need 1 more turn to cast Decorum. Corpses of the Lost makes sense with a miner. I think I'll exile the enchantment itself. Alright, let's cast the Decorum before the opponent decides to Demolition Field. And then now they can hit my black mana all they want. So we've got 6 points of burn in hand. While their opponent will be gaining quite a bit of life of these pest tokens. So, still gonna draw 2 myself. And then we can defeat the 3-drop. And then Helix can think about going upstairs. Teachers, pests, another way to gain life repeatedly. So yeah, kinda tough for a burn deck to get through all this life gain. Maybe I should deal with a 2/2 token. Again, we're kind of playing the control role here. Strategic Betrayal, exile my graveyard, that's fine. I'll draw 2. Finding a Cursed Recording could speed things up. Silverquill Charm is a way to exile their Teacher's Pests. Probably should go for that. And then, do I deal with these pest tokens? I guess we'll wait and see. Yeah, sure. Otherwise it's gonna take me forever to get through all the life gain. I maybe should have at least a second basic land in the deck for the Demolition Field matchup. Yeah, I don't think the case is getting solved anytime soon. Should maybe hang on to Boros Charm in case of a Curse Recording top deck. Bloodghast is not quite active with haste. There's a recording, so that should speed things up. Still gonna draw myself. It's a lot of land. So this is 8 points of burn, and then we're somewhat likely to get there next turn. I guess let's see, let's put an upkeep stop. Can I copy the paradigm? Because yeah, we're casting the spell. So if that works, I can just target my opponent with it twice. And unless they have instant speed life gain, that would be game over. Ended up drawing the Monastery, which could give us a redraw. Alright, it looks like we got there. But not thanks to any lucky top decks here. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a keepable hand. How many points of burn do we have? Looks like 13. I think I'll wait on the Bolt Wave. Can save myself 2 damage if it comes down to a race. Alright, now Curse Recording an incentive to hang on to some of my spells. But I can probably Bolt Wave now. So our opponent a red-white. Red-white doesn't have a ton of answers to artifacts that are seeing a lot of main deck play. Get Lost doesn't work. So let's give this a try. Opponent makes a token with Virtue. Alright, so if they're a token deck, it's going to be tricky to remove all their creatures one by one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to copying the inevitable defeat. So for now we pass a turn. Appraiser with Discover 3, so interested to see what they find. Antiquities on the loose. Yeah, then if the spell was cast from anywhere other than your hand, so they get to put +1 counters on their spirits. Fair enough. So that's a pretty cool synergy. But yeah, still gonna go ahead and copy the defeat. Not sure what matters more between the extra toughness or Appraiser being a real card and not a token. Now, probably plan to double Boros Charm, and then I guess they're just dead. Since we can Silverquill Charm or Blinding Strike as well. Yeah, the recording's pretty powerful, if you can get it going. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a pretty land-heavy hand, but one of those is Monastery, so could be worse. Turn 1, I do not have Plains or Island, so could just start with a tapped Monastery. Turn 1 Forest, and Land or Elves. The age-old question, do you bolt a bird? Or in this case, burst the elves. I think we do. Can wait on the Bolt Wave. Can't necessarily burn every single creature, but slowing them down early on is probably worth it. Leyline Weavers next. Not sure why they took 1 damage, because they can cast it for green. Alright, let's Bolt Wave, keep up Lightning Strike, and then if they cast an Uroboroid, we can strike it before they get the +1 counters. Okay, we're making black mana. And the Archaic, I see, untaps the Weaver, would give them additional +1 counters going forward. Currently a 3/3. Alright, so probably have to strike the Archaic. And there's more coming up. A Slumbering Trudge. Yeah, I guess I didn't have an opportunity to take out the Archaic in response. So... yeah. I guess I'll still strike the Archaic anyways. So an 8/8 with 2 stun counters. Yeah, that's scary. I think the Charm has to go face now. Can't keep answering their creatures. Alright, well. Galta is a problem. So I need to draw my inevitable defeat, or we're gonna get defeated ourselves. Well, cannot even cast the Decorum. So Monastery is my only play. And a self-destruct for 8. Yeah. Plus an attack will do it. Well, this was unexpected to say the least. And that's just a land, sadly. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw with a keepable hand. Hopefully we'll get to see the Decorum in action. For now, keep up Burst Lightning. Opponent Naya Colors. Erode is not gonna find many targets in our deck. The loot is scary, so that's a good target for the defeat. Can hang on to the Burst Lightning for another turn. And Boros Charm face. And there's a loot, so that's gonna get defeated next turn. So sadly, no double mana for you. Possible they have another copy, but they already milled one earlier. No land number 5 yet. So in that case, Bolt Wave, end of turn, either Charm or Helix. And I guess our opponent's already at 7. Oh no, opponent's gonna be dead before we get a chance to cast this. If I get a chance to play this, I will. So yeah, Burst Lightning end of turn would make sense. We drew another Charm. Now it feels like I'm playing with my food if I don't go for the kill. A Northwind Avatar. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. I don't know what life gain they could have in the sideboard for 1 mana. So I guess we'll just win the game. So yeah, we got to see this Mardu burn deck in action. An archetype that now has access to a lot of quality burn spells, Silverquill Charm being the latest addition. So yeah, sometimes you just draw 20 points of burn within your first few draw steps and you don't need to do anything else. Other times you need to play more controlling roles, slow down the opponent's plan, and then having those tools like the Cursed Recording and the Paradigm to take over the late game is pretty important. So it's nice that you get to play both kind of the aggro role as well as the control role depending on your draws and depending on the matchup. so that's been pretty fun. And yeah, overall it seems like it's a pretty nice deck in best of 1, where opponents might have a few dead removal spells that they can't use and can't sideboard out either. In best of 3, the deck gets a bit worse, since your opponents can take out their spot removal spells and bring in targeted discard effects and maybe find more counter spells as well, so then things will get a lot more difficult. But for best of 1, this seems like a pretty fun time. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.